Hey everybody, it's Dick here. Today I'm looking at the BMW F800 GS. It's powered by an 85 horsepower parallel twin engine. The 800 is unique in that it sports spoked wheels and inverted front forks. It has reinforced handlebar guards, 3 rider modes, adjustable suspension settings, ABS, traction control, which can be disabled. This example has an aftermarket tinted windshield. This also has a comfort saddle, which is considerably more padded and sculpted than the stock saddle. It has LED indicators, a center stand, stainless steel exhaust, factory luggage racks. Let's see how this 800 can handle the London traffic.
I find I like driving these big bikes around the city because it gives me a sense of how it's going to perform at low speed and how I'm going to be able to handle the weight of the bike on some technical riding. We all know that these can tour and they can pull big miles and go at high speeds, but it's in the smaller roads and the tighter situations that these bikes become unwieldy or dangerous, and you want to see how your skill set matches the tech of the bike. It's hard not to compare the 800 GS and the 700 GS because essentially they share the same engine. The 700 is detuned by 10 brake horsepower, and you can feel the difference when you get on the 800. The 800 from go is pulling. It wants to pull. Even just gently coming off the clutch, the bike jerks forward. There's lots of torque there, and it's good power. It's good solid power. It is a bit unnerving though because of how jerky it is. The clutch is easy to pull in and it's easy to feather. It just pulls. It just wants to go. It's enthusiastic. I'm using the road riding mode now. There's a rain mode and there's an enduro mode, and I was told don't do the enduro mode unless you're going off-road or you're going to be fighting the bike. You can turn the ABS and traction control off. There are 3 suspension settings. I'm riding one with a comfort seat, and that puts the seat about 10 or 15 mils higher than the stock seat. The stock seat is a little flat, and it is actually quite noticeably more comfortable with this comfort seat. You got some lumbar support. It's wider between your legs, so the bike feels a little more substantial between your legs. Filtering is really good on this bike, even though it's a big bike and it's wide. You're really comfortable when you're filtering. The weight's really good. Low speed, I feel really confident. The bike's planted underneath me. Once you get the handle on feathering this clutch, it's actually, the power band is quite comfortable to use. The clutch feels like it's pulling against my fingers though. It feels like it wants to be released, and that I think could get tiring over a length of time. It is higher than the 700 I'm used to riding. I don't know if it's just the seat or if the suspension stance is higher. These have inverted forks on them, and it has the spoked wheels. Yeah, thread that needle. The true test of these bikes, everyone kind of watches review videos and goes, how are you going to get a good test of that bike when you're just sitting in traffic? On a big adventure bike, that's exactly where you want to test your bike, in traffic. See how it feels at slow speeds, see if you need to put your foot down, see how responsive the brakes are. Yeah, let me go out and ride on the highway for 25 minutes and see how that feels. When I retook my training to get my UK bike license, I was taught this technique to riding on big bikes. You always have to keep your foot on your brake pedal at stoplights. So you have one foot up on your brake lever, and then you can lean the bike onto a flat foot on your clutch side. And that's the way you can learn to manage these tall bikes. You know, if you're used to coming up to a stoplight and trying to plant both feet in kind of a tripod method, these bikes seem unwieldy. But if you're doing this UK stoplight method, these bikes seem a lot more manageable and a lot more maneuverable when you're stopped. I got the heated grips going. It's pretty cold today. I was told that the 2 dots on the indicator for the heated grips mean it was ultra hot and it might be too hot, but it's actually nice and toasty with these thick gloves on. Brakes are nice. It doesn't dip as much as I thought with this long travel suspension. got great acceleration, but that's no surprise. It's the things that I wouldn't expect this bike to do well that it's doing well. It's doing really well at low speed. It's doing really well filtering, and in these tight situations, I'm not surprised that it can accelerate. I'm not surprised that it can do all the stuff I expect it to do. It's the little things. It's a really comfortable ride. I could see being on this bike for hours and not wanting to get off, or not needing to get off. Transmission is really smooth, just sliding into gear. It's no issue. Standing up is pretty comfortable too. It's actually more comfortable than the 700 because there's a wider tank here. Well, it's not a tank, but there's a wider faux tank along the front. You can really pinch it with your knees. Yeah, it gets up to speed as you'd think it would. It's funny, getting up to speed is not where I notice that extra 10 horsepower. You'd think the extra 10 horsepower would be felt really at the acceleration, but it's felt really, I think, across the band. The fairing's a little wider on the 800 as well, so I feel really tucked behind this bike and warm. If you're buying this bike, you're buying exactly what you want in an adventure bike, and it's probably a more maneuverable and a bike that you can handle a lot easier than the 1200. So it's the whole package. It's not a compromise. The 700, I think, is a bit of a compromise. I think the thing about this bike is that it doesn't feel like you're giving something up other than a huge amount of cash.